Look, I know it's been probably a long day in the office, so thank you for turning up and listening to me speak this evening. What I'm going to do is give you a little bit of an overview of AAT Kings at the moment. Some of you may be aware that we've been through quite a significant period of change over the last 12 months. We made quite a few acquisitions. Can anybody tell me what those acquisitions may have been? Deathly silence. Okay, in February last year, 2012, we purchased APT's language touring operation in the Northern Territory. Then at the end of June in 2012, we purchased APT's English language tour operation in the Northern Territory. And we also purchased their Sydney and Melbourne day tour operations. So the last 6 months of 2012 were very much about integrating those businesses into AAT Kings. So it was definitely a significant period of upheaval, integration, migration of bookings and so on. So it certainly had its challenges for all of us. This year, I'm pleased to advise that we've got a new managing director. Anybody tell me who that might have been? Hey? Yes, Anthony Hayes, who came to us. He was previously with Tourism Queensland as CEO for 6 years. So Ant came in February of this year, and he's been shaking the place up a bit. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about that, because there is some really exciting stuff happening in terms of AAT Kings moving forward. I don't know if you can read this, but this is a statement made by Brett Tolman. Anyone know who the Tolman family are? No? Okay. AAT Kings is owned by a very big global company called the Travel Corporation. And the Travel Corporation has about 200 brands within the group. Some of those brands are names that you might recognise, like Contiki. Anyone heard of Contiki in this room? Yeah? Thought you might have. You may have even been on a Contiki tour. Yeah? Insight Vacations, Trafalgar, Creative Holidays, Uniworld, River Cruising and so on. So quite a big company. But Brett made this statement last week at the World Tourism and Travel Conference. And he's saying here, AAT Kings is undergoing a massive transformation as the brand increasingly looks to bolster its appeal in Asia. The Travel Corporation's Chief Executive and President revealed that Brett told Travel Today that the domestic coach operator is going through a period of reinvention as it adapts to the demands and the nuances of emerging markets. All pretty exciting stuff, huh? I'm supposed to be doing this and implementing this, so that's definitely challenging. What are our priorities moving forward though? And this, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Clearly articulate our brand. Part of that is reinventing the brand and rebooting the brand, and we'll actually be launching a new brand late October. So watch this space. It's a brand new look for us. It's definitely about Australia with a cheeky grin, so to speak. So pretty exciting for a tour operator. So can anyone tell me how old AAT Kings is? Do you know how old we are? No? 87 years old. We actually hold the first tour operator licence ever issued in Australia. So we've got a little bit of expertise in touring in Australia and of course New Zealand. We have obviously refocused in terms of our customer service as well. That means internal and external. What we're delivering on the road to all of our guests in terms of a touring experience in Australia, but also how we're treating our own staff internally. Our tour directors, our drivers, our res staff, our product people, everyone is impacted by this. And we actually had a customer service conference for the first time in many, many years. It held it in Sydney about 9 weeks ago. And we actually flew people in from our offshore offices to participate in that. So we're really serious about it. And an increased focus on international sales and distribution. That actually led to a bit of a restructure. I came into AAT Kings. I was with AAT Kings many years ago. I sort of left for a while and worked for APT, and then for 9 years. And then with the acquisition, I came back into Travel Corporation. Okay, so that's how come I'm back there. We've recently restructured. So now, basically, I'm looking after all of international sales, which incorporates the UK, Europe, Scandinavia, North America, China and Asia, Japan, inbound, ITOs, OTAs, and also looking after the relationship that we have with offshore offices of the Travel Corporation. I'm not doing all this on my own. I've got a few staff. Some of you might know Lucy Jen. We've just recently announced that Lucy joined us on the 2nd of September, which is great news. In terms of inbound and OTAs, I am about to make a public announcement. We've made an internal announcement. I don't know if any of you know Katie Laird, but Katie will be coming in and looking after inbound and OTAs for us. So that's the new structure. In terms of my priorities, what do they incorporate? Well, management of all those international offices, identifying new opportunities via some of the international wholesalers. There's a lot of wholesalers internationally in a range of markets that might sell New Zealand but they're not selling Australia, or they're selling Australia but not New Zealand, or they're selling the South Pacific. So it's my job to identify new partners and maybe some of those who aren't currently selling as much of Australia as they possibly could be in the future. Looking at growing sales via the inbound tour operators, of course, in terms of AAT Kings, to date, obviously we've been very much focused on Western markets up until about 2 years ago in terms of our extended touring programs and our other products. So we're looking at new markets and our product development, how we adjust our products moving forward. So there's a lot of work now being done on that. Our China sales strategy is currently being worked on. In terms of Japan, we've been operating Japanese language touring at ASRock for about 20 years. So we're very, very experienced in the Japan market. But we haven't done a lot in terms of distributing our other English language product. So we're looking at expanding the product portfolio in the Japan market. Focusing on our airline partnerships, Ant, who I mentioned, who's come in from TQ, actually has a background with Qantas as well. So he's very well connected in terms of the airlines, so obviously our partnerships moving forward will be crucial. Tourism Australia and the STOs, I can't probably emphasise just how important the relationship with these guys is to us, particularly in the offshore markets. We work very, very closely with them, whether it's on media for mills, trade for mills, promotions, joint activity. We participate in practically all of the major trade shows offshore with TA, whether that's the India Mission, Jam, Corroborees, G'day LA, all of those. So we do an extensive amount of promotion and activity throughout the year, but in conjunction with TA and the STOs. It just gives us more bang for our buck and extends our dollar that little bit further. Just talking about Travel Corporation and TCA, and some people don't know this. TCA, Travel Corporation, are global. TCA is what we set up under Travel Corporation in Asia. And we have offices in Hong Kong, Beijing and Shanghai, as well as Singapore, Bangkok, and now in Mumbai, also Indonesia and Taiwan and the Philippines. So quite a few. But it obviously allows me to have some legs on the ground. Like for instance, in Shanghai we've got 12 staff. Up in Beijing we've got 7 staff. they've been very, very successful in promoting our European products outbound. So they will do about 170 million US dollars this year outbound out of China into Europe. So obviously what we're looking at doing is replicating that success in the China market to bring Chinese down to Australia. And talking about the changes in terms of the travel law on the 1st of October, I think that will give a lot of operators who haven't been able to get into that market and secure any business from that market some really fantastic opportunities moving forward. It's going to weed out the shopping tours, which have been the bane of our existence since 1998. And we've been talking about it for many, many years. But we actually needed this change, and the Chinese government to make these changes. Keep in mind also that law is equal in terms of other destinations. So I was very lucky. Our office actually got the document, translated the bits that were pertinent to our tour operations, both for Europe but also those relate to Australia as well. So I'm actually rather excited about that. As to the questions that I was asked to address, gosh, the key challenges over the last 5 years, gosh, where do I start? I could go back 15 years. September 11, the collapse of Ansett, SARS, H1N1, all of those things, the GFC in 2008, the high AUD, loads and loads and loads of challenges. And we're no different than any other operator or supplier. Those challenges have hit us, and at times hit us very hard. The great thing about the travel industry, though, is that we seem to be able to overcome these challenges. We always recover. It might take us a bit of time, we might have to make some adjustment, but we always recover. In terms of competition, that's probably where the challenges come from. In our competitive set offshore, South Africa, after the World Cup in South Africa, the Rand compared to the AUD, South America and so on. I think also with Australia, we sort of suffered a little bit of familiarity. Travellers were looking for, we used to be, like down under and really exciting and wow, can't wait to go to Australia. It's not quite the same anymore. So there's a lot of work obviously being done by TA and the STOs to change that perception. And regional dispersal goes to that in terms of getting people off the East Coast, getting them out into, and obviously I'm very passionate about that. Operating in the Northern Territory, you can't get much more regional than Ayers Rock in terms of access, and particularly some of the impacts that we've had with the changes to aviation. Qantas pulled out of Sydney Ayers Rock. We've got Jetstar now on the route, but only flying 4 times a week. So in terms of challenges, there's been a lot of them. What would I say has been the biggest for us, for AAT Kings as a company? Definitely the shift, that paradigm shift from west to east, and the eastern markets, and us not quite adapting quickly enough in terms of our product offering, but we are addressing that now. In terms of China, we're obviously looking, and we went up there in May, we met with a lot of the trade, key STOs and TA, and talked about what sort of product you want us to develop. We as an operator have huge infrastructure. We've got vehicles, we have depots, mechanics, you name it, we've got it, we can develop it. So that's the plan. Talking with our partners, understanding what the consumer wants, understanding what's saleable, and at what price point we need to sell our products. So a lot of work going on there. I love this one. How do you handle situations with overseas wholesalers or agents trying to contact rates directly? We never, ever, ever contract online. What we do, our distribution, we want as wide a distribution as possible. Now, in some markets, that means we do work directly with wholesalers, because they're long-standing relationships. Some of those relationships have been in place for 25 years. That's more probably in the German market, the UK market, and to a lesser extent, Singapore. We've got a couple of direct relationships that have been in place for about 20 years. How do we deal with it when a wholesaler comes direct? Depending on who the wholesaler is and what product they want to secure from us, quite often we will go back and we'll say, look, these are the key ITOs that work your market. They can provide you with very competitive rates on AAT King's product. We can't provide you with, car hire and attractions and all of that. We're not a supermarket. We're only selling our own products and some third-party sightseeing products in some of the major cities. So that's the way we handle it. It's always up to the agent or the wholesaler as to whether or not they choose to work direct. For us, we actually promote ITOs, and the fact that the ITO is more of a supermarket in terms of Australia, can provide 24-hour assistance. Quite often there's language involved, they want to communicate in language and so on. We can't do that, so it is preferable for many agents and wholesalers to work through inbound tour operators. So that's the way we handle it. Yes, we do. Certainly in terms of protecting rates, and we're very, 20% to wholesalers, maybe 25% to some of our preferred clients, 30% to inbound tour operators, 10% to retailers. It's a standard. And yes, we do protect inbound tour operators. We're very open and honest. We've got very long standing relationships with ITOs here in Australia, that go back many years. So there is a trust and a respect that has been built up. Quite often ITO, it's interesting actually, ITOs will refer business to me, sometimes direct, because they don't want to take extended bookings, our extended touring, our guided touring sometimes. At the same time, we're recommending inbound tour operators to offshore agents and wholesalers. So it is very much a two-way street. How do we engage in the distribution system? Well, one, brochures. We produce brochures here in Australia, domestic brochures that we distribute to retail travel agents. Offshore, we also have our own brochures. So in North America, we have an AAT Kings brochure that's distributed to retailers. But we also have brochure wraps. Anybody know what a brochure wrap is? That's when the wholesaler, for instance, Qantas Vacations in the US will take our brochure, but they wrap it, the actual front and the back covers are changed to reflect their brand, their look, their feel, their terms and conditions. So we do that with quite a few wholesalers offshore, both in the UK, in Germany and North America, but we also distribute our own brochures. We also obviously work with the inbound tour operators, distributing our rates to the ITOs, our product information. We also communicate with agents offshore and the ITOs onshore, email newsletters, product updates which go out regularly once a week, stop sell advices and so on. We also obviously have people on the road, visiting offices, conducting training sessions and so on. In terms of stop sells, that can be every week, particularly with day tours. There might be changes in terms of roads, road closures and so on. A lot of the stop sell advices and the product advices really do relate to Sydney and Melbourne day tours, not so much with short breaks in the Northern Territory or our extended touring, though sometimes some of the extended touring departures are put on stop sell. So that's, but if there's road closures, floods, something happens in the Kimberley, that sort of thing, that's basically what we're communicating. It's usually an advice to the ITOs in terms of operational changes that might be happening, and we try to get those out pretty regularly because it's important that we communicate that information and what the alternatives are as well if there is a stop sell. Anything else on? No. What percentage is direct versus who? I would say, at the moment, in terms of AAT Kings, and this is all our business, the globe, including Australia and New Zealand retail, about 90% is through the trade. So the trade is absolutely crucial. That's not to say that we're not working with OTAs, we are. And the growth has been tremendous, particularly over the last 5 years. More so in terms of half day and 1 day sightseeing, but now we're seeing some growth in terms of the take up on our short breaks product. So anything from 2 to 5 days, we're seeing an increase there. Probably as consumers become more used to purchasing online, now they're booking air and accommodation online, now they're starting to book their touring online. How are our products sold to customers? In terms of to consumers, obviously we have trade that we work with in terms of cooperative campaigns, but we also run our own advertising and marketing campaigns through media. Not so much offshore, it's just far too expensive. We will participate in cooperative promotional and tactical campaigns offshore with trade partners, but onshore, obviously, a lot of what we do is electronic media, EDMs, so direct mailings, and again, working with partners, but we also run our own branded campaigns as well. But watch this space because they're going to look very different after the 23rd of October. And that's it, everyone.